Shut up and sit down.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show, live on Free Speech Media. If you guys are watching this on a Lizard People website like YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, click something in the description to go over to Free Speech Media on DLive, Trovo, or Float to watch this, help earn crypto, help support the Liberty movement, and not support the Lizard People. I say that too much unironically now. I'm actually really excited about tonight's episode. We've got two based guests coming on tonight. One of them from Satan's armpit down in Georgia. And whether you're down there or in California or Nazi York, whether you have a very liberal or a very conservative government, you can help take the edge off with some Nug of Knowledge CBD or THC products. You go over to nugofknowledge.com. Use promo code UNITE, get 10% off your first purchase, and again, help support people in the Liberty movement. So that's what we're all about here. Again, I'm really excited about today. We've got former senator candidate, governor candidate, hopefully, possibly, definitely, Mr. Shane Hazel. How's it going?
Dude, you got a tight intro, brother. I like it, man. I was sitting here jamming. I was like, nice tune here. It's a good dig.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, David. I mean, it's cool. We met 2 weeks ago? Almost on Friday at the Pennsylvania convention, and man, it was a good time. What a crowd, huh?
Oh yeah. This is interesting. You're one of the first people on the show that I actually met in person first.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very much anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't. But yeah, that was an electric night. Just having all of those people in one room or out in that. The best part was when we were taking over that entire smoke area outside, and it was just there was 7 different circles, and there was just straight up bongs being passed around outside in public. No one gave a fuck. It's like, oh hey, that's Scott Horton, and that's Shane Hazel, and there's Dave Smith over there, and Michael Heiss is over here, and oh, that's Jeff Douglas. All right, okay. And it's just okay, this is all the cool people, all just getting stoned out in public.
And nobody is acting a fool. Man, it was so good. Just cool, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, what a moment. I got to, I don't know if Scott wants me to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. But man, just to roll around and share a J with some guys or whatever. Really cool night, man.
Yeah. And you mentioned no one was acting a fool. I was pleasantly surprised by that, and not even because it was a Mises thing, but just because it was just a thing, right? I've never been with that many adults that drunk where more inappropriate things didn't happen than what happened that night. It was really tame. It was just, and I mean, we had fucking toddlers and tiaras next door for the first half of it, and it was so many opportunities for just someone to get mistaken as someone, and just could have gone terribly, and nothing really went wrong that weekend.
Those crazy potheads, man, they're wrecking the world. Oh man, what's gonna happen? Everybody gonna get peaceful and love each other? Attack a bag of Doritos together? That's all that happens.
Right? Jesus. So I do have to ask, what made you decide to become a Democratic operative and sell out the country to the leftist cathedral mob?
Man, when you hate Republicans as much as I do, after being a Republican your entire life, right? That's the thing. Is I get maybe I've got the antithesis of Stockholm syndrome, right? Those were my captors for a long time. The Republican Party. I thought everything that they did and said was, the way it had to go, and I'd even see my cognitive dissonance sometimes and get called out on it, right? You just try to make an excuse for it, and oh man. Anyway, Yeah, man. When I came back from overseas and started, learning liberty after being shown the hard way, it was one of those things where I thought maybe I could go in and do some things for a failing party, for people that were supposed to be kind of a conscience of liberty, some remnant of liberty, the Constitution. Like, man, they weren't having any of that shit. And like, not only were they not having it, like they were going around like stabbing me in the back and like changing debate schedules and limiting the debates to just one debate. I mean, it was crazy. So, when I saw all of it, I was like, man, this party is beyond help. Like even if I did take it over at this level, I'd have to take it over at the state level, and I have to take it over at the region level. I'd have to take it over at the federal level. I don't think the GOP is salvageable in that way. There's a running debate right now out there between guys like myself and Tho Bishop. And I mean, I've been there, I've tried it. And I was like, well, guys, if I did something wrong and you guys want to go show me how to do it the right way, fine, by all means, go for it. But
that's how I feel about Eric Brakey.
Yeah.
Him and I have gotten into it like on Clubhouse and on Twitter, and even a little bit when I had him on the show, I pushed back. I don't usually argue with my guests. Like they can say most of what they want, and I'll just be like, all right, yeah, I mean, I see your point. But that was one I had to be like, well, is the Republican Party actually the best vehicle for liberty? Because I don't think so.
Seems like controlled opposition. And I'll tell you right now, man, as soon as you make any waves in that party, they want you gone, man. Like that's like down to the rank and file. Like they just hate you because that's the popularity contest, and it's what you do when you're trying to like earn favor with whoever's in the power seats. And I'm so glad that we are the antithesis of that. Like, like when you look at what's happened in the past 3 years in the Libertarian Party, it's been a fight, man. And now I think things are coming off the boil. Things are starting to like gel a little bit. We're starting to hit a stride. And man, I mean, like PA, it was a perfect example. It was like, man, we had people from all over the Libertarian Party in that room.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, the love was just infectious up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on fire. I'm still riding on the coattails of that night. Because it's like, God, it was just a great night. Like, and listening to Dave and listening to Scott, and then just getting to meet all of those people. And, there's a lot of talk about like what people y'all are bringing into the party. Right. And I got to meet a bunch of them. I got to meet hundreds of them in one night and actually talk to over 100 of them, like one-on-one. Throughout the night, because I was there with Free Speech Media, and we were actually like interviewing a bunch of people and like really trying to get the real story. And the most common story that I heard was I found out about the LP in 2008, supported Ron Paul in 2012 in the Republican primary. He lost. Then I voted Gary Johnson in 2012, 16, voted Jorgensen in 2020, and now I'm a dues-paying member of the party for the first time.
Yeah.
I heard that story dozens and dozens of times. I heard a couple people in that room that were like, well, I was a Bernie bro in 2016 and still kind of was in 2020. And then I heard Jacob Hornberger talk about anti-war and joined up. Like that's people underestimate the Tulsi to Hornberger pipeline.
I think absolutely astute connection, man. Tulsi, I mean, I've talked to so many people lately that were Bernie and Tulsi, in totally different track, right? And they've both come to that point where they start having conversations with anti-war people. And then all of a sudden, man, they find one of us, and it's just like, well, here's your fire hose, and we love you. Come on in, man. If you think you're pissed about that, wait till you find out about it. Economics. Wait till you find out about what's not happening in terms of like civil asset forfeiture nullification, criminal justice reform. All of these things that we as libertarians just knock the cover off the ball. It's like. It's a very fast pipeline, right? Like you go into being a minarchist to an ANCAP like pretty quick sometimes.
Oh yeah. I fell down that rabbit hole this year, and it's a fun one. I wouldn't call myself an ANCAP. I'm just an anarchist. But there's that common saying of like, if there's 10 people sitting at a table and 9 of them are Nazis, there's 10 Nazis sitting at a table. Not to bring this into Nazis, because this is going to be a bad example, but it's just such a common fucking phrase. I like to think about that with like the Tulsi stuff, because a lot of people gave me and some of my friends shit for working on her campaign. Like I was her deputy volunteer coordinator. I had a national named position on her campaign. Reed was one of our like main volunteers in New Hampshire. He busted his ass for that campaign. There's plenty of other people named, like even like Justin O'Donnell did a bunch of work helping us like coordinate some events, and a lot of us got shit for it. And it's like, if Reed hadn't built that relationship with so many of those Tulsi people, that Tulsi to Hornberger pipeline wouldn't have been there.
I agree.
Like he pushed more people down that pipeline than anyone else I know. And I know dozens of people that did that Bernie to Tulsi to Hornberger, Jorgensen, and now our Mises Caucus people, almost exclusively because of Reed Coverdale. And that was before he had a show or was popular or anything like that. That's just him as a person.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, right? It's like, this little, civil war that we had, I shouldn't even call it that. I'll get shit for calling it a civil war. But like, the fact that we had this, there's a revolution going on inside of our own party, and to see all these people from all these different venues arriving at this one place together, right? It's like, look, guys, we don't have to agree on everything. Like, that's really not what we're about. We're actually for the antithesis. We're about do whatever the fuck you want to do, right, man? It's like, and if you're not hurting anybody, we don't care. Like, that's the coolest part about this whole thing. And I wish more people in the liberty movement that were a little more negative, a little more depressing, saw that. It's like, yo, man, you can go liberty whatever the way you want, and I'm all for you. Like, I really don't care. It's like we our rules. It's like, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, and good ideas don't require force. If you can go in liberty that way, I don't give a shit what you do. I don't care how you get there. I have zero, like, just keep bringing them, and we'll all be cool together, right? Like, it's a really neat thing. We teach each other shit too. And that's, oh man, you want to talk about the wealth of experience in this movement right now from all different sorts of,
hell yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. We just got one of our first victories, big L libertarian victories this year, for someone who was the petitioning coordinator for Andrew Yang in Indiana, which is, if anyone knows anything about the Democratic primary process, the Indiana is literally the hardest state to get on the ballot out of almost all 50. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Tulsi almost didn't make it on the ballot. Bloomberg was paying people $100 an hour in Indiana because he almost didn't make it on the ballot. It was hilarious. And Yang was one of the first ones. We have that guy, and he just won his election in DeKalb, Illinois, with 83% of the vote. And like, we're doing shit. Like, we're really actually doing shit because we have some people. And yeah, especially, if you're talking about a wealth of knowledge, like Scott Horton by himself is a wealth of knowledge. Like, Scott Horton by himself just joining the LP doubled the LP's knowledge of the anti-war movement.
Well, it's. I mean, that's the thing, is like, we could just really, if it was all a chess game, we could really just sit Scott Horton on a chessboard by himself against everybody. Yeah. Did you see what he did on Tim Pool last night? Incredible. I mean, to sit there and just have those guys going, yeah, you know what, man, I got a default. Like, what the hell you're talking about. You know who the players were and everything else. And even the internet out there, boy, they may nitpick maybe one or two things here or there with like a syllable or misplaced name from like 1940 something, and you're like, that's all you got, man? Like, get out of here. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we got some people apart. Absolute legends in this movement right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scott Horton's just in and of himself like a really good egg, and really just calls balls and strikes, and better than a lot of people.
Sure does. Have you ever talked to him off the side, man?
A little bit. I got him a little bit after the show when I had him on. We got to talk for a little bit, and then last weekend, but not nearly enough.
I'm going to have him on to talk about his book that I've finally finished because I had stacks and stacks of them everywhere. But I really want him to come on and tell stories, man. Like, absolutely. I'm here talking about Scott Horton, but like, we were cracking up. I mean, I was absolutely, I was having a good time, but I was also like, these are incredible stories, Scott. Like, a lot of times Scott's got that, that really heavy job of, telling people all the depressing shit that's going on in the world, right? And so it's not a lot of humor, but boy, man, you get him off and like and on the side and start talking to him about some of the stories he's got. They are hysterical, man. Absolutely. And I think a lot more people need to see that side of Scott Horton.
Oh yeah. You constantly forget that he is really just a well-educated stoner skater, bro. That is like even on Tim last night, he's in a fucking hoodie talking about like how much he misses skating, and it's like he's really just a stoner, bro. Like, that's Scott Horton. It's beautiful.
What's funny is how many people, have really come to life since the nullification movement of cannabis, man. I mean, I'm telling you, like when I found it, man, that's when stuff started to happen, like really started to happen. And it's not, it's not irresponsibility. It's one of those things where geez, Pete, you look at, history. Have you read Immortality Key?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, it gets into like the history of human beings and where spirituality came from, not so much religion, right? And what religion adopted because it couldn't kill and then suppressed, this part, like the cannabis, the psilocybin, all of these crazy rituals that they used to have in terms of communing with basically your pineal gland, for lack of a, better term, but like they were doing some amazing things, and like it all got removed from our culture. And I think there's a damn good reason for it, especially now that I've read that book. If you are of that mindset, you're into psychedelics and all that kind of stuff, go read that book. I mean, absolutely an awesome book, and it will confirm a hell of a lot of your suspicions on why this stuff is absolutely suppressed to the point of they'll kill you for doing it.
Yeah. I will definitely be adding that to my list, because that's one of my favorite topics right now. I got into psychedelics last year, and yeah, when I really started looking into why we don't have them, and why the criminality of like literally every natural remedy to all the bad things has been illegal for decades now. It's like, it's more, for a long time I was like, big pharma. And now it's like, no, this has been hundreds of years. Like trying to hide this stuff from us has gone on longer than big pharma's existed. It's a whole other thing.
The Catholic Church has reams of, the history of this, being part of the sacrament, right? Like that's one of the things they did. And like, oh man, like for the Catholic Church to be who they are, to have the treasure that they do, and be just this, I don't know, completely fake ass organization that is, really kind of got into moving pedophiles around, the different countries and things like that. It's like, fuck, man, like what a evil, powerful organization that too many people are still blind. I mean, these murder cults are everywhere. I mean, thank God the Catholic Church is, a voluntary murder cult, right? Like, it's like, yeah, you guys just keep your murder shit over there and we'll keep our murder shit over here. But yeah, I mean, this guy, Brian, and forgive me, I forget how to pronounce his last name, but yeah, man, he gets to go down into the catacombs or catacombs, but basically the basement down there, and he speaks every language there is, basically, right? All the ancient Greek, all the ancient, Farsi and Arabic language and dialects, and then he'll roll through Spanish and German, and you're just like, who are you? And you understand botany and biology and chemistry and all. Like, your brain just goes, man. It is it's a fantastic read if you're into the history of spirituality, for sure.
All right. Yeah, that's always been a fun topic, because I was raised really religious and kind of ditched that, and then came back into it because I realized that, like, it was cool. I got back into it because I found a good church that was more spiritual than they were religious. You know what I mean? Where they actually believed in miracles and sought them out, and they did the stuff, and they were helping their community, and they were teaching good things, and all based on the Bible, but it was very much not what I grew up with. And then the more I dove into that, I was like, this is all really cool, but the Bible that it's all based on still sounds like bullshit. So so what do we do now? And then I just did a fuck ton of psychedelics and got into like a lot of really long, in-depth arguments with a few of my friends, and realized that, like, yeah, maybe I don't believe all the things.
Yeah, man. Was it a hard thing for you too? Like, at first you were like, "Ooh, boy, like this is really kind of difficult." It was, I don't know, it kind of wore off on me for, like, over time, when I was just starting to going like, well, if this is bullshit, is this also bullshit? And like, you finally get to those, very hard questions. Like, what do you think, in terms of this and everything around you? Like, I'll tell you what, man, that psilocybin, that unlocked all that shit. Like,
oh, hell yeah.
that and some super high doses of THC. Like, it's been like, it's one of those things where, when you talk about people who are travelers, right? Like, people that are going into something to, go in and be still and conquer a whole lot of things, man. And it's a trip, like, not in a bad way if you're prepared for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually was down in your state when this all started. I was helping my friend move from Georgia to Colorado, and so I was just at their house. It's just in the mountains in like northern Georgia, just middle of fucking nowhere, just dropping
probably
acid.
Neighbors.
I was just just those very, very long, in-depth conversations about like, okay, well, why do you believe that? And they were so good. Married Livy and Dimitri McKay. I don't know. I actually just had Livy on the show a couple days ago, but it was just, they were so good about it, with like trying not to break my brain. And so I'm very thankful for that. But really, it was easy, because I didn't switch from like, oh, I know this to be true, to I know this to be true. It was really just figuring out that, like, I know nothing to be true, and I'm kind of cool with that.
Yeah, man. Like, seriously, like, you're a human being. The idea that you should know everything or have an opinion on everything, it's just bullshit, man. Like, it's so narcissistic of the human condition. Like, it's just that's how we are, man. We're like, oh, I got an opinion on it. Like, dude, you've never drove a bulldozer in your life. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, like, let's leave it to the bulldozer guys over there.
Hashtag all of Liberty Twitter. It's like, that's one of my biggest problems with libertarians, though, in all reality, is that because we have an answer to every problem, we all have this habit of trying to have the answer to every problem. And it's like, no, like, just, Scott Horton's not out here trying to like get into the deep philosophical conversations about economic policy or like fucking environmental policy or social programs or anything like that. Criminal justice reform, anti-war. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what he knows about. That's what he knows more than almost anybody else about. And that's why he's so fucking good at it. And all these people, all these people with like 150 followers on Twitter think that they're going to solve all the world's problems themselves. And it's like, bro.
Yeah, you got to learn. Like, I'll tell you, I had to learn it the tough way, and I still get caught sometimes. And somebody will be like, well, "What about this?" Right? Like, what about this? And you start getting into those damn details. And you're like, "Hey, brother, you just gotta step back for a second and be like, listen, your lack of imagination and really, my poor luck with genetics in terms of like brain capacity, like we're going to figure out some smaller things over here. We're going to let some other of those guys out there with the 12-pound brains figure out, some of the bigger problems. And guess what? They're going to be rewarded by the free market for it. So let's not get, all up in a tizzy about, oh, well, who's going to do this? Somebody who is dealing with that problem on a daily basis is going to find a way, or somebody who sees a pile of money just sitting there because they can do it cheaper, better, and revolutionize something in 2021, man. Like, let's let those people go out there and do their genius stuff, man. Like it's not up to us to solve all the problems. That's not how we're here. That's not why we're here. We're here for one thing, and that's whatever your passion is in liberty.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. That's the entire point of libertarianism, is that the government can't solve all your problems. We've never once offered up the hypothesis or the resolution that not government solves all your problems either.
Right?
Like, you're not just gonna torch the fucking Capitol building and then all of a sudden everyone's free and happy and the free market works perfectly and no one's dying or sick or hungry or anything. No one believes that.
Yeah, we don't promise utopia, man. What we promise you is that the government, the biggest murder cult there isn't going to point their guns at you anymore. That's our promise, right? Like, they're doing that. They're wrong. Unless you've taken somebody else's rights and trespassed them, like, that's not what we're about. You leave everybody else alone, we'll leave you alone. And everybody from the government, if there is such a thing, even if it's the smallest one there is, they're not pointing their damn guns at you.
Right. Exactly. And that's, yeah, like you said, that's really all we're promising. And I think that's why we get labeled as that we don't care about people. Because it's like, we're not arguing for utopia. We don't think that that's really possible through government force or electoral politics. Like, it's just not a thing that we believe in. So it's like, yeah, of course we're going to sound like assholes compared to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is out here trying to think that, we're just going to have free everything and everyone's going to be able to smoke all the weed they want and learn all the things and have all the computers and the phones and free Wi-Fi and free everything. And then everyone's just going to live happily ever after. We're not stupid. So we're not trying to sell people this false narrative of a utopia that's literally not possible.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, you look at these guys that want to swaddle the entire damn nation, and you're like, guys, man, you're never going to see the end result of this because you're already old as hell, right? Like, I mean, Bernie Sanders he's pushing mid-70s already, and you're just like, you make these promises. We don't have the money to do it. You're going to do it on the backs of other people. You're still going to take taxes when you can print money out of thin air. Like, none of this stuff is going to work out. And in the end, you've pushed your problems off on your children. That's the thing. Like, I don't know, David, like, as a dad now, it's like, that's the last thing in the world that I want for my kids to inherit. It's like, if I don't go down swinging on this, then I have failed my kids. Like, if I don't give it every ounce of effort I have, I've failed. Mm-hmm. I've failed as a father.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't imagine. I don't even have kids, and I couldn't imagine wanting, like, oh, well, that's the next generation's problem. It's like, no, this is our generation's problem. It was our parents' problem, really. And they just passed it off to us, and now we've got to fix it. Because
isn't that weird? Like, isn't it weird, the fucking Vietnam generation? Like, I don't know how old your parents are, but my parents were old enough for Vietnam, barely. And like, it's like, guys, you saw 50,000 Americans and countless Vietnamese, Viet Cong, Cambodian, you name it. You saw all these people get slaughtered for years, and you're going to turn around and be part of the administrations for the forever wars? Like, fuck you guys, man. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I really will never understand it. My grandparents were in Korea and Vietnam. My dad was in Desert Storm, and even my dad, it's kind of fucking weird. It's like, thankfully he never saw combat, so he's not quite as, like, radicalized some of my other friends who are ex-military libertarians. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm thankful for that because, I don't know that he would have taken to it the same way that some of my other friends did, and, might not have turned it into so much of a positive thing. But, his dad is messed up. His brother is messed up. Like, there's so much of my extended family. Like, I'm the first male in my family, like through all of the branches of the family tree for like 6 generations to not go into the military. Like, it's insane.
Smartest one yet.
Right. Honestly, yeah, because like half of them. Oh, I lost.
No, you're good. You're good.
There we go. Yeah, like half of them literally didn't even like finish school, and that's why they went into the military. It's like, yeah. and then they try to lecture me as like why I'm the stupid one in the family. It's like, I'm the first one to graduate high school. Fuck off.
Oh,
well,
wow.
Not quite. I mean, my dad's got a bachelor's, but his dad didn't graduate high school, and same throughout most of that family tree. It's like, but I'm the crazy stoner dumbass libertarian that doesn't know what I'm doing. And my grandpa literally went on a rant last time they were up that, I'm killing people because I'm working for a marijuana legalization PAC. And it's
wow. Golly.
Fuck off.
I'll tell you what, man, I don't know how old your grandparents are, but like my grandparents like kind of came into I guess their teenage years in the 1930s when they were going through all that kind of stuff, and they're like, "You guys are full of shit, man!" Like, like it's
yeah. My grandparents are like
nowhere.
Early 80s, so yeah, they were teenagers after the propaganda set in.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that, again, that generation in power now hasn't repealed every cannabis and psilocybin law and everything else. You're just like, you guys were part of the hippie movement, for God's sakes, and that it's all bullshit. Like, I don't know, man. What do they call it? The greatest generation. They're the worst fucking generation now.
That's got to be sarcastic. Like, that's a parody title, right? Like, fuck.
Oh, with the greatest generation?
Yeah, that's got to be a parody title. It's got to be. There's no way somebody actually believed that one.
Well, that's what mainstream has to do, right? They have to lie. They have to control the narrative through lies and everything else. And they call them the greatest generation because they were taken hostage as slaves of the government and made to do the government's bidding in World War II, man. Like, you're sitting there going like, man, the greatest generation. Why? Because they let you enslave them into a world war. Like, that's it. That's why they're the greatest generation, or they're the greatest generation because they bought into the New Deal. Is that why they're the greatest generation? Like, these have all been terrible, terrible decisions. That generation allowed happen to America. And I don't know, man, like, I love my grandparents. I think, when I look back on, quote unquote, the Americana during that age, it's something that I shouldn't, I should look back and love, but the more and more I look back on it, I'm just like, God damn, man, it was a lie then. It was a lie. The whole time was a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, we're talking about religion kind of breaking your brain when you walk away from it. That doesn't compare to how many of these, like, the amount of times Alex Jones has been right. Let's just say it that way.
Right.
Like agreeing that maybe Jesus wasn't the son of God is completely like pales in comparison to human monkey chimeras. Like, it's just, they're turning the frogs gay, or 9/11, or fucking the weapons of mass destruction, or COVID, or any of this other bullshit that they've spewed at us. It's like, you're telling me the man in the clouds isn't real? Okay, that's fine. I can accept that one. That's pretty easy. And we're seeing that now. The fucking government is like, oh yeah, aliens are real. And everyone was like, oh yeah, okay. That fits.
We know, motherfuckers, right? Like, here's the other thing though, right? Like, when this whole alien thing, this has gotten stuck with me a little bit, because years ago when Bob Murphy and Tom Woods used to do Count Krugman, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had a show, and I remember where I was, man. Like, I was in Canada at the time. I was listening to this show, and I was so taken back with the idea that Paul Krugman and the economists in the Obama administration were floating the idea of a mock alien invasion to spur the economy, to pick up the economy. And you're sitting there going like, no way, man. Like, are you fucking, you're kidding me. I had to go look it up, and sure as shit, man, they did the episode. And they weren't kidding around. Like, that's how bad Keynesianism is. Like, they will fake a fucking alien invasion. You think they haven't faked everything else, but I don't know about you. I believe there's extraterrestrial life out there, and it's probably been here, and maybe we're even being farmed by them, right? Like, we're getting to that point where, man, maybe they're around, and maybe they're coming anyway to clean up house a little bit, because we've kind of gone astray.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we really just live in a simulation anyway, right?
Maybe. Here's the thing. I don't know. I'm that libertarian that's going to go, you know what, man? I don't know. Seeing what AI can do and track and predict in terms of everything that it knows about you, man, like, I don't know. Maybe.
Man,
at some point,
I love it.
At some point, human beings picked up these little things that had microphones and cameras and inclinometers and started, carrying them around everywhere they went. And I don't know, maybe it all got recorded. Maybe it all got, into an algorithm. Maybe you are an algorithm of somebody else's past life. Like, it's not an impossibility. It's just, I don't know, man. It's crazy shit. But here's the thing is, I don't care. And this algorithm, if that's what it is, I still want to be free. Where's the freedom algorithm? Right? Like, how do I jack into other people's algorithm and update their code so that they go, oh, guess what? I don't have to be binary anymore. I don't have to choose this or that. I can actually choose amongst a lot of things, or make up my own shit. Like, those are the human beings that I need to be around, right? How do I update your code?
Yep. If this is a simulation, my purpose in it is to prove that freedom is real. Like, that it can be achieved, and that human, like, the anarchy can exist peacefully. Like, that's the reason that I was put into this simulation. If it is one, it's the decision I've come to.
I'm with you, man. That's absolutely, like, if that's what it is. Yep. Sign me up, man. I'm running the algorithm right now. And you know what? It's been pretty cool for me. It's been, like, there's this idea that I've been kicking around for a long time, like, being tribalistic in America and the divides and all that kind of stuff. If you can walk between tribes, you're an asset to your tribe and the other person's tribe, right? And if you can talk, both their language and respect both their cultures, and, do things and bring them together and show them that, hey, man, you guys aren't all that different. You got a lot of humanity. You guys may do some things differently, but hey, it doesn't matter. That's all cool. Just be cool with them. They'll be cool with you. Like, to be that person, that's what I really want, man, is like, how do I go and I walk from tribe to tribe to tribe and just go, hey, listen, I know those guys over there at BLM. Most of them aren't, the head shed. Most of them are the guys, like us. They just live in a different part of town. They've had a different human experience. That's it. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I marched. I did a decent amount of marching with them, and actually, there's a couple of, like, kind of sister organizations in New York City that I've done a lot more work with, like No New Jails and Decrim NY, and there's a whole bunch of those groups. And like, when I ran for city council in 2019, that's where most of my support came from. That's where most of my fundraising came from. That's where almost all my canvassers came from. Like, they were all fucking communists, like, loud, outspoken, self-identified communists. They fully believed that capitalism was the root of all evil. But when they heard someone come in and say, well, I am running to fix this shit, and one of the first things that I'll do is get rid of all like corporate subsidies, starting with the fossil fuel industry that's coming out of New York City. They were like, oh, wait, really? You're going to do what?
Tell me more.
Yeah, that's all I needed was that. And they were already pretty fucking down. And then I got to talking about like, oh yeah, and like completely decriminalize sex work. We shouldn't legalize it because that just creates a new black market because it's government controlled. And they were like, yep, down with you there. I'm like, all drugs should be legalized, not just cannabis. They're like, yep, down with you there too. And it's just like, yeah, there's just so many fucking things that we agree with so many people on. It's like, whether you want to trade or share in the end is not fucking important.
Yep, no, you're right, and it's funny to see more of this roll out too. And that's the thing is like, if you can approach this, it's kind of the Horton principle again to bring Scott back into this. Is you go at the right from the right and the left from the left. Like, I mean, the people on the right, they believe in the free market. They call it the black market, but they believe in the black market of gun trade, right? It's like, hey guys, you got to believe in that in terms of cannabis and drugs. Like those things are natural parts of the human life. And hey, you guys, you liberals, the progressives, whatever the fuck you are, like, hey man, I know you're down with drugs, and you participate in the market of those things, right? Wouldn't it be cooler if it was out in the open? Well, guess what? It'd be cooler if everything was done that way with guns too. You guys got to be cool, man. Like, and explain to them like, hey man, there's 500 million guns we talk about in America. Most of them never ever kill anybody. That's how you don't have a problem. Like we don't have a drug problem. We've got a spiritual problem in the United States. That's the thing is we've we've been cut off from our pineal glands. We've been cut off from shaman. We've been cut off from our friends and our family because of these goddamn lockdowns. And it's one of those things where if they can keep you isolated, like isolation is a torture technique. They teach it to you in special operations when you go through SEER school, right? Like when you go through SEER school, you're isolated. You are told things by other people, and like there's telephone and all this kind of stuff. That's what they've done for the last year. They've isolated people, which is a form of torture, and then they've got into their minds and their psyche. And now you see all these mental breaks, drug use through the roof, drug overdose through the roof. And on top of it, you've got suicide through the roof. It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I love what you were talking about, like attacking the left from the left and the right from the right. Another one of my favorite ones to confuse people is when we're talking about privatizing the police force with right-wingers. It's like, you guys want school choice, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why is private education better than public?
Yeah. Why do all the big politicians send their kids not to public school?
Yeah. And almost all people, like all good Republicans, understand the concept of school choice. They know the arguments. They can articulate it. And if you press them on it, play devil's advocate for a second, they'll lay out the entire fucking argument for a privatized police force without realizing it. And it's so great. It's my new favorite thing.
Dude, I convinced somebody the other day, speaking of that argument for privatizing the police. Like I had this person who was like, I don't think we can do it. And she, to be fair, she's part of the local Cherokee County libertarian group that we just set up. And it was a fun conversation. And I was like, do you like going to Chick-fil-A? And she's like, I love Chick-fil-A. I was like, think about if Chick-fil-A ran the police department. Are you satisfied with your service? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Those guys work their ass off to make sure that their customers are not only happy, but had a amazing experience with their organization. That's who I want in charge of the police departments. I want Chick-fil-A. I want the people at Chick-fil-A to revolutionize policing here in the South.
Right. And it's not like the cops in the South aren't already homophobic, so it's cool.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. It's.
I don't give a shit. The chicken's good.
Chicken's great. I don't give a shit, man. Like there's crack. They've got it on limited supply. They don't do shit on Sunday. Like, you know what? Cops take a day off. Once in a while. Like, take a damn day off. We don't need you. Like, you should be responding to a few things that are real heinous. And outside of that, just stay at the precinct. Stay where you are. We don't need you out here. You're reactive force.
Yeah. I'm really being encouraged by how many people are waking up to the actual causes of the problems rather than just the problems. Because like we've known about police brutality has been a conversation since like early 2010, like even early 2000s. It's been a conversation for a while, but Eric Garner, that was like 2011, right?
Yeah,
something like that. It's been a minute, right? But it's just been like, fuck the police, all cops are bastards. Which, I mean, I will say all cops are bastards pretty often
very
online.
succinct. It is actually right down my lane, man. I'm surprised I didn't pick up with fuck the police earlier, right? Like, but here's the thing: is like I had this great meeting. Like one of a guy I consider a brother. He had this run-in with the local PD down here. They pulled him over, driving while black, brand new, Lincoln Navigator, right? And it was a stop for no reason, no ticket, no warning, no nothing. They made him prove his innocence, and I was on the phone with him at the time, and I was like, "This is bullshit." So I called up the mayor, I called up the chief, I recorded the conversation, and because of what the chief said and then did in terms of hanging up on me and recoiling from the fact that they had really fucked up, the mayor had me into his office, also a Marine and pretty liberty-minded, and now we are changing what they're doing, right? And if there's anybody that can understand like how indoctrinated you can get from school and from the military and from college and from whatever the state has their hands into you for, it's me. And I was like, listen, man, I don't want your officers' heads on pikes. I want to change policy. I don't give a damn, man. Like, I don't care if we make news. I don't care what we're doing. I want these people to be free to travel. And he was like, you know what? Cool. Let's write the proclamation. Let's set it down. And this is going to be my issued order to the police force here in Holly Springs. And I was like, dude, this is kick ass. This was just last Friday. This is what you can
awesome.
do. That's amazing. I mean, it's like, you know what? As much as I can't stand what the fuck those guys are doing out there, driving in murdered out cars and everything else in terms of, violating your rights, there's still hope for them if we can reach their humanity, man. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you just got to be a good enough salesman, I think, and mean it. Like, talk about grand juries and shit. They hate that. Like, talk about the grand jury. That'll get their attention.
Yeah. It's very easy to write people off as unhelpable when you don't want to put in the work to help them. We do the same thing with racists. We do the same thing with neocons. We do the same thing with communists. It's like, oh, they're too far gone. No, you just don't want to put in the work. Like, that's it. That's all it is. I don't know how many people that I've talked to in the last few years in the liberty movement and outside that, used to be like straight up, like not sarcastic, not hyperbolic, like straight up racist, fucking hated people of opposite races. Like, just
where do you find those people?
I grew up in upstate New York in like the white trashiest fucking place on earth. Like, I grew up in one of those families that like locked their doors when they drove through the black part of town when we drove through Syracuse. Like, I grew up pretty fucking racist myself, and a bunch of my friends did too. And it's like, then I moved to Brooklyn and Syracuse and have traveled the world and the country, and I've met a whole bunch of people, and the idea of thinking anything about someone based off of the how much of a tan they had, but when they came out, like, just doesn't fucking make sense to me anymore. But I understand if you've never met people who aren't white, like, it's really easy to just like listen to rap music and watch a few bad movies and be like, oh, this is how this culture is. And, it's the same internationally. Like, we have pretty fucked up ideas of what like Russia looks like.
Oh, it's beautiful. Most of it.
Right.
I think it's funny, man, because I've always had this hypothesis, like, my family's from Michigan, right? And, I grew up down here in Georgia in the South, like in the 80s and 90s. And there were a couple guys that were very, very racist, right? Like, very racist. I wasn't friends with them, and I guarantee you they didn't hang around, the groups of people that I hung around with, because people were done with that kind of shit. They're like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just because he's got some melanin in his skin, like, or he speaks a different language or whatever, you're gonna separate him. Like, there were some. I mean, I will say, those group of people that I grew up with, they weren't having that kind of stuff, and good on them too, because I think it was still a changing time in the South. But boy, I see that stuff. I have seen that stuff in other places. The Northeast, I've seen more of the racism up there than I ever was exposed to here in the South. And I almost think there's like some projection, from those areas like California or, whatever is, the Northeast. Like, I don't see that in the Midwest. I don't see it in the South. There are some people who have done it, don't get me wrong, to a really, really bad degree. But for the most part, man, I don't see that stuff around here.
Yeah. I 100% agree that it's projection, a lot of it. And like, in the Midwest, there's not that much diversity, so people they're just not worried about it. Like, it's just not on their mind. In the South, it's been pretty mitigated and it's pretty chill. In like the Northeast and the West Coast, it's everywhere. It's everything. It's all of your identity has to do with like, and it's also more segregated. Like, if you're talking about geography, like if you just walk through Brooklyn, there are streets that make the dividing line between all the black people are over here and all the white people are over here and all the Jews are over here, all the Puerto Ricans are like it's crazy the amount of just like straight up lines that there are through New York City.
Balkanization, like small balkanization is what it is.
Right. It's insane. And then because it's like that, we talk about it like that, and it's like, oh yeah, I was down in the Puerto Rican neighborhood early, and that's just like how you fucking talk, and like race becomes everything, and it's impossible to create tribalization and then not prefer yours.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We're picking teams. I guess by default I have to be on this team. It's really, it's such a low brain human activity to think that way. It's right. Golly, yeah. Like, can we have some nuance? Can we just pause for a second and maybe think that this person doesn't have to be the cookie cutter? I'll tell you what, man. I think it was the design of a lot of progressives that were extremely racist people, right? Like, you're talking like the Fabian socialists. Like, Fabian socialism is where progressive comes from, right? And so when you understand that these people were like genetic scientists and doctors, like people from the Germany that literally came over here, like Fabian socialists are some of the racist people in the world. And I think what they started to do was started to adopt a culture and then turn it. Right, with their influence, with their power, with their messaging, with their their murder cult tools. Like, that's what they did. They said, "Yep, you know what? We got it. Now we're going to steer it to what we will accept out of this culture." And here we are in 2021, and you got dipshits like that dumb blonde out there in California telling black men how they should and shouldn't act. It's like, God damn it! Like, do you not see it?
Yep. Yeah, you have one of two options when you create that tribalization. You either become racist for your, like, in the normal sense and like pick your team, or you become some self-hating moron like that bitch. And it's like yeah, and there really aren't any other options. Like, you are either this like obnoxious like anti-racist, and that term means a whole bunch of things that I shouldn't have even said it. Like that just prioritizes the fact that like, oh well, I help black people and I have a black friend, and one time I gave this black person a ride in my car once, and it's like, and they make it all about that, and it's like, holy fuck, please shut up. Those are your only options. You either are that, or you end up becoming someone who ends up a little bit reactionary to that and gets labeled, like I'm sure you have, as some like, and I know I have plenty of times, as some like white supremacist that like, because I care about traditional values and like I like my family heritage, and like, I speak German every once in a while, and like I still like some tasteless flavorless food.
Sadness. You like the taste of sadness?
I do.
Dude, I got my mom's German. I get it. Like potatoes and really maybe some casserole or hot dish with maybe a little bit of salt on it. And you're like, fuck, this is terrible food.
How did the British conquer the entire fucking globe in the search for spices and then not use a single goddamn one of them?
Oh, I was talking about that with Zuby or somebody the other day, man. I was just like, are you kidding? Like, if there's anything worse than German food, it's British food. It is lifeless. And I mean, if sad had a flavor, it's the United Kingdom, man. Like, that's what it is.
If sad had a flavor. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I won't ever really get that one. But now you're down in the South where they actually can cook, at least somewhat.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know what? It's funny the amount of culture here in Metro Atlanta. I mean, I've traveled the world over, and over again, and thank God, because what I've found in other places is people know how to cook, and I mean, like to share how they cook, and boy, you start adopting those things, or you run around, especially like I got to run around Singapore for a while, and they had this stuff called laksa, and it's one of my favorite dishes in the entire world, and you couldn't find it for a while. Then all of a sudden, you know what? You just got to go down to the right areas down here, like Chambly, to the H Mart, and man, they've got your laksa paste and all the ingredients that you could possibly need for it, and then some. And it's just go in, get over your uncomfortableness. Like, nobody there hates you. Well, maybe somebody, but it doesn't matter. Like, go in there and find these things out. And I'm not telling you, Atlanta's a great city for food, man.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned just get over it. Nobody there hates you. It's like that weirdness and awkwardness that we feel going into those stores. It's like, yeah, that's how they feel when they walk out of the store. It's like that's what being a minority feels like. Welcome to 10 minutes of experiencing what some people lived their entire lives as.
Yeah, just go smile at people, man. I mean, that's opened more doors for me. I mean, if you just go and act like you belong and you smile and you try to maybe grab a couple words, the greeting of the day, the salutations at the end of a day, trying to use different types of utensils, trying their food, trying whatever it is, man. It's just like, go try, do. And thank God for my dad, man. Like, my dad was always like, just go do it, go try it. Like, you can say you don't like it later, but you're gonna do this. And
right.
Sometimes kicking and screaming, but you know what? It taught me how to try, man. It made it a habit. And it's just like, yep, those people over there, they're probably good people. Even if they think they hate you, maybe you can, crack that damn stone heart of theirs and maybe introduce them to something that they've been missing out on all these years, maybe their entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes growing up was from actually a parkour guy, Ryan Doyle. I almost said Ryan Dawson because I've been talking about him too much lately. Ryan Doyle did a video where he was at a open air mart in China, and he said, "I'll try anything once, twice if I like it." And that was in my Facebook bio for 5 years. I lived by that quote, and not just in food, and just everything. Because how do you know that you don't like that thing? It looks ugly and disgusting, but it probably tastes good. So try it. How do you know that you aren't going to be able to be friends with that person? Go have a conversation. They're an asshole. All right, walk away. It's fine. You didn't lose anything. You lost 20 minutes. Big deal. That job looks hard, but you can probably have some fun, learn some shit, earn some money and meet some people. It's let's just go do it. Yeah. And
repairing the past too. Holding on to anger it's not healthy, right? To be able to kind of bury some things, especially if the other person wants to bury some things, that you have that moment in life where you can sit there and suck it up, as nervous as you might be about even doing it, And you know, like I had to do it this past weekend, man. Like we were at a jiu-jitsu tournament, and one of the referees out there, you know, who I didn't know from Adam, he had a bad call in one of my son's matches. Is very competitive. You know how hard your kid works. And I was like, what? And he starts like, you know, saying some stuff to me, and I was like, I don't, you know, like I was belligerent to him. I was like, I don't really care. You know, you've made a bad call, and it's bullshit. And so, anyway, you know, two years later, man, I walked up to him. I said, "You probably don't remember me from Adam, man. Like, you probably have no idea who I am. But I was a belligerent parent once that didn't understand the sport of jiu-jitsu, and I thought it was all about winning and not about what's going on with your kid in between his ears, because I wasn't doing it. I wasn't rolling. I wasn't doing this kind of stuff. And I just wanted to say, hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the assholes out there that, you know, will call you on a long day. You're not getting paid jack to be out here to referee. It's like, go out and apologize to somebody. Maybe it'll make their day. Maybe it changes some things. Maybe it brings people together. I mean, at least you tried.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there it goes again.
Gotta love tech, man. There we go.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I was excited to do that last weekend in PA. You know, there was a bunch of people there that have, you know, called me a Nazi or a cuck or a blue-pilled lolbert or all sorts of different things that I've been
amazing how many things you can be, isn't it?
Right. That one really it is the most fun part about being part of the Unity thing is like I am both an alt-right Nazi simp because Dave Smith came on my show, but I am also a blue-pilled cuck commie fakertarian because I was on their show on Saturday. And
time to get over it, people.
It's
time
fun.
to get over it.
Oh my gosh.
Own it. That's all you can do, man.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of people that had called me both sides of those names there last weekend, and I got to smoke weed with them and have a good time and kind of break down a bunch of those fucking bullshit narratives because it's all misinformation. Like, obviously I'm not none of those things, right? It's not like any of them are accurate. It's not like, oh, one of these teams really gets me and the other one is like, no, like these people are idiotic if they think that I'm any of those things, and it doesn't take very long. It's
Ayn Rand, right? Like, no, man, I'm in this for me. No. I'm totally kidding, but you get my drift, right? Like at the end of the day, man, if we're dividing up, I'm still going to divide down to the lowest common denominator, and that's the individual, right? Like let's keep it, you know, at that level, and let's not get too groupie. It's
right.
Groupie stuff. Yeah,
my favorite is when people are like, "Oh, the Mises Caucus is playing you." It's like, how am I getting played?
Right.
Like, I'm not giving them anything. I'm not even a member. Like, you guys haven't even got a single fucking dime out of me. I got into the event for free because I was with Free Speech Media. Like, nothing has been given from me to the Mises Caucus in any sort of way. All I do is have.
David. We're gonna get you. It's coming. I guarantee you.
I'm sure it is. I've talked to my state coordinator a little bit. She's been on my ass for a while, but I'm moving, so she can't have me. It's still in the air, but most likely Oklahoma City.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Why Oklahoma City?
Well, there's a certain state chair there that might be running for something.
Right on, man.
That's about all I'm allowed to say on live yet.
That's all good, man. Sorry to put you on the spot of your own
good.
show, but hey, maybe your listeners want to know.
Yeah, I mean, most of them. Actually, yeah, Kevin Hobby is entertaining. Or it's almost 100% at this point. He's running for mayor of Oklahoma City this year, so
cool.
I'm gonna be out there helping that, and then I'm excited about what's going on out there. I just had Todd on the show last night, actually, and he's awesome. I'm fucking fired up about what's happening in the movement right now. Like, there are too many amazing people doing amazing things who are finally like finding their place they were stretched thin, and they finally like found the thing, and they're able to focus on it. We have like 7 or 8 different like national teams of people coalescing behind a couple of powerhouses that are just doing fucking work all over the place. Like we have like 6 packs now.
Crazy,
2 years,
right?
3 in 2016 there was 1 pack supporting Gary Johnson, and it wasn't even a libertarian one.
Right.
Now we have People for Liberty. We've got Take Human Action. We've got the Frontier Project. Like we have the Supreme Institute. Like there are so many different things out there just pushing liberty, and there's more coming. And it's just like, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, for guys like David, if people that see this kind of stuff, if we could, that's my ultimate goal is turn this all into industry, turn liberty into an industry. So when people get comfortable, they get comfortable in liberty, and this kind of shit doesn't happen for generations. Like that's what it's got to be. Is how do we employ, these people who are the fighters, who are the administrators, who are, the people who are going to keep and protect and look after liberty, man. This is all it's got to be.
Libertarians doing libertarian shit.
Magnus.
Fucking love that dude.
I can't believe you got fucking deplatformed the other day, man. It's just bullshit.
Everything he touches glows. That's just the thing. That's what happens when you're one of the world's most dangerous people. The internet's most dangerous people.
That's right.
2020.
Yeah, you got a guy with a LBGQ flag and a bullet bouncer talking about how we should all be more liberty-esque, right? Like that is the scariest thing in the world for the murder cult.
As someone who's been on a Zoom call with him while he was cleaning his AR with the colorful flags in the background, it is scary, actually. that was
at least you were in the same room.
That was by far some of the coolest visuals I've had, though, was just like all of the colors, and he had like a Hawaiian shirt on, and his fucking beard was doing all weird shit. It was a fun time.
I bet it was. It sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was a little while ago. It's been too long. But yeah, I'm excited. There are multiple like really strong candidates coming forward for next year that I'm excited about. I mean, you have 2 statewide candidates in Georgia and I love you both. Like, you guys are 2 of my favorite people. Like,
it's funny, man. Is we went to high school at the same high school.
Really?
Yeah, man. We were sitting up on stage when we were at the Libertarian Convention in 2018, I guess, or 2020, going into 2020. Golly, it feels like forever ago. Anyway, yeah, man. So we're sitting up there and we're waiting for a quorum to be assembled after, it's kind of a shit show in terms of like votes, and everything was kind of messed up. So we're up there for like 25 minutes just hanging out, and like kind of just got into this conversation. And we're just like, where'd you grow up? Said, me too, man. What high school did you go to? And sure as shit. Chase, he graduated just a couple years after I did. Totally different backgrounds.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Man. Well, somebody did something either really great or really terrible in that fucking high school to
I'll tell you, as far as, compulsory government indoctrination camps go, it was a pretty loving place. I don't think everybody was bought into the idea that, everything should be as the administrators wanted it to be.
That's good. Yeah, I'm good. I actually got to finally meet Chase last weekend as well, and you guys have some really strong messaging. Both of you targeted it at very different groups, and so you guys covering the state together next year is gonna. I'm excited. Georgia did some weird shit last year,
but we got it. Here's the thing: is with what happened down here. Boy, I mean, I'll tell you, the spotlight being on, to be able to take that moment and blow it, as big as we could, and without any money, right? Like zero money, brought $200 million extra into the state because of a runoff or 2 runoffs down here. And to start having people disaffect from both the DNC and the GOP. I mean, I've been inundated ever since. Like, things have been in hyperdrive, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, all right, what are the next steps? What can you do? What's the best ROI every day for what you're doing? And I'll tell you, this is some of the best ROI there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount of press that you guys got down there. Like, I heard your name from like non-political people in New York, because people were like, "Fuck that Shane Hazel, motherfucker!" Like,
but you do know me,
right? Oh my gosh, my favorite was that that picture that got leaked from the GOP meeting about like why they lost.
Oh. You know what's crazy is that was my old hometown. Like, that was the Georgia Tea Party, or the Forsyth County Tea Party. I recognize it because that was like one of the first places I ever gave a speech. First, like, ever in my political career, man. I was just like, yeah, you know what? And then, to be up on their board for the reason why they lost, like, nowhere on there is there a shitty candidate in a list of 14 bullet points. You're like, man, maybe include that next time, you dipshits. Like,
maybe don't run the bitch that got caught insider trading off of the greatest, like, fucking mass murder scandal in the history of humankind. Like, maybe don't run that bitch for re-election.
Yeah, and not only that, but the guy that ran against me, I gave him my platform. It's like, you want 115,000 votes to hear what you have to say? Come over here and throw him a bone, man. Like, I'm not telling you I'm going to endorse you, but I'll give you my audience for an hour. You want to pitch it? And then they sent Rand Paul on to talk to me, and he got destroyed, not because I was mean, but because I was like, hey, man, what's the damn difference between the Republicans and the Democrats? And he had to sit here and go, there's not really a difference, but if the Republicans are in power, at least I have more sway in the Senate. And I was like, that's your reason? That's your reason why I should endorse, this guy, David Perdue, down here? Not going to happen, man. And then David was like, nah, I ain't coming on your show. It's not worth it. And I was like, oh, you think that's going to be how you're going to win an election, is go tell the Liberty crowd of 115,000 votes that they're not worth sitting down for an hour and offering an olive branch? And that's why you're not the senator anymore. So that's the power, man. Like, to be able to grab that and start to push ideas, where we are about ending all the wars and the drug war and ending civil asset forfeiture and, non-violent crimes. Like, that's what that's why we are bringing more and more people in, is because they see it, they're sick of it. And it's going to be so cool when people realize, oh yeah, hey, you know what? We can live together. We just don't need these assholes out there dividing us.
Right. Was there any like second thoughts, when after the runoff happened and the election results came in and you were like, holy shit, I did a thing. Was there any like, was there some regret or?
No regret. And that's the thing, is honestly, I don't see a difference in John Ossoff and David Perdue. I don't see a difference in Democrats and Republicans. It's more war, it's more spending, it's more debt, and it's less freedom. And it doesn't matter. None of them are fighters. The Republicans are cucks, controlled opposition, ballless jellyfish, right? Like, these guys suck. And like, you've got people on, the quote unquote Democratic ticket that are fighters. Right? Like, they're going in there because they believe what the fuck they're talking about. And by God, they're not going to be talked out of it most of the time. That's why we're in the position we're in. The guys on the Republican side are just controlled opposition at this point. Just like, well, no, man, I don't give a damn. One way or another, I'd rather have the fight now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if it wasn't for this weird, like, split, like tie in the Senate, then we wouldn't have Joe Manchin actually growing a pair. Which, I mean, I'm not a fan, but like, he got some balls, more than most.
Yeah. There are some fighters, emerging. I mean, that's, if there's one thing that Trump did well, it was not give, two flying fucks, right? Like, that guy went out there and exposed a lot of what the murder cult is in terms of the propaganda, or what he called fake news. He basically, put the DOD on notice a little bit. He could have done way more. But he talked about the never ending wars and tried he talked about getting us out of them, right? And really, he was just an asshole. I'm not saying everybody should be an asshole and not care. What I'm saying is at least the guy gave off the appearance that he was a fighter, and I think people gravitate towards that kind of thing, man. It's people are kind of looking for people that are going to say, man, you know what? I've got a little bit of power, I've got a little bit of position, or a little bit of following. I'm going to use that to go after these people that have destroyed our lives.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for 22. I'm curious some of your feelings on 24, specifically the fairly apparent ticket of Gates, Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to be a thing.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't think she's going to get out of Georgia next time. She's very outspoken. But the problem is she's not well read. And I don't know. I guess if you can get Donald Trump in there, you might be able to get, Marjorie Taylor Greene. But oh man, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be excited about that. If you're looking for a candidate to kind of rip apart America, Marjorie Taylor Greene is your person, right? There's no, I don't believe in compromising liberty, but she doesn't believe liberty, man. She believes in what she wants and whatever her brand of conservatism is. It's Donald Trump conservatism. It's not uniting for sure.
Oh my gosh. I was watching, I watched maybe the first 5 minutes of one of their speeches, because they just went on a national tour together, right? And, I watched her opening to one of them, and I could only make it 5 minutes in. I had to walk away. She was just like,
tap out.
she started off with, how many of you guys believe that Joe Biden actually won? That was her opening line, basically.
Very galvanizing. In that room, I imagine, it's all that, what they were talking about in 2016 when Trump won, people yelling at the sky. You're like, that's you guys. Go look in the mirror right now.
Yep. And then, she went off about how we need to ban abortion and that should be a priority. Right out the gate, I was like, holy shit, you're terrible. And I don't mind Gates that much. He's actually one of my favorite congressmen, because I think that I don't agree with him on policy, but I agree with him on a decent chunk of political philosophy. I think, he swore off PAC funding. He's been pretty good on on drugs. He's been pretty good on anti-war. He's been pretty good on the budget. He's been principled to his stuff, even though I disagree with them. He's been pretty much the same from the jump, and has kind of a flair that I appreciated. When he picked Marjorie Taylor Greene to go on this tour with him, I was like, no. Christy Noem? Maybe. I would hate that ticket too, but I could understand it. That would have given us hell as the Liberty Movement if we had so.
Yeah, Christy Noem would give the Liberty Movement. I mean, that's the thing is if it's Gates and Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean, the LP, especially if it's Dave Smith up there, is going to have a field day with those people. Absolute field day, man. And I don't know, man. I think we're right for the picking in 2024. And I don't know about you, but Gates, man, I don't know. I always think that the cult is going to, basically go after Crucify, find some type of kiddie porn or something on somebody's hard drive, right? It kind of seems like their MO, when they need to disparage somebody, they're like, oh yeah, hey, we found a hard drive and it's got some kid porn on it. And you're like, guys, come on, every time. But I'll tell you what, man, Matt Gaetz, he looks a little bit different these days, man. Have you seen, he looks like a character. He looks like this, he was a pretty normal looking Floridian, and take that for what it's worth. But then you've got this new character that's emerged, and he looks like a TV evangelist, right? And you're like, what happened? Something's going on here. It's almost like they want him to be more easily hateable. right? It's almost like it's scripted. Like, hey man, you need to go and you need to bronze up a little bit. You need to take that hair and you need to make it more character-esque, maybe lose a little bit of weight. Like they do this kind of stuff in Hollywood. And the thing is those two places aren't divorced. Like those two places are very incestuous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's they're like, hey, have you ever heard of Jersey Shore? Go watch like 3 seasons of it and try to mimic everything that you saw there. You're 100% on point. Yeah, he was pretty decent like a year and a half ago when the HBO released a documentary called The Swamp.
Yeah.
And in that, like that's why I was a fan of his. Was watching that, I was like, he comes off pretty fucking good in that. And I was like, listening to him talk to Rokana about like anti-war bills, and I'm like, all right, I can get behind this guy. And like maybe if Trump is ousted, he'll drop the shtick and kind of go back to where he was. And nope. But yeah, it looks like I'm very much looking forward to the fairly likely looking prospect at the moment of Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg.
Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, man. Oh man, that's
we
scary,
would
man.
mop the fucking floor with them. We could run Justin, we can run Dave, we can run Vermin fucking Supreme and mop the floor with them.
The thing is I do think elections are rigged. I think they've always been rigged, but the idea that Kamala is one of the least likable people on the planet, right? I mean, literally, no, the Democrats don't even like Kamala. She was ushered in by a BP ticket, and that's the only reason she's on the stage that she's on. Like, boy, what a this whole girl power, and we're so amazing with the first black female president. You're like, you guys are so full of shit. You don't like the way she got here. Even was some of I don't know, man. Like, I wouldn't want it for my daughter. I can tell you that, right? It's like. Yeah. I don't know where that line in the sand is, in terms of, being I don't know. I hate to disparage people who work in the sex industry, right? Like, this woman is not that. Like, she's way worse because she's pretending she's not, right? Like, This woman has paid for things with her body and receive political favor for it, and they're like, this is what the left is showing their kids and their daughters is an amazing woman. Well, boy, the omission of history is pretty bad there.
Oh yeah, and just saying that makes you a sexist because you can't say that she like slept her way to the top because that's not fair, and like she earned. It's like no, it's an objective truth on this one. Like I am that it is a very common accusation to be made of very good women. I mean, fuck, I heard it of Tulsi. It was like, I wonder who she fucked to get into Congress. And it's like, no. So like, I understand people's like quick reaction to shoot down that narrative for Kamala. I understand it because most of the time it's false.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
This time it's not. She's a fucking whore. Just not.
Let's be that's what I was saying. Let's be honest about people who do sex work, man. Like it's not something I would recommend. It's not something I even promote, but it's definitely not something that I think you should be thrown in a cage for or killed for or have any type of government oversight for, right? Like they're going out and it's at least an honest type of living. And Kamala, man, no, man, what she's done and lied about it is absolutely bonkers. Yeah,
and then she's the worst. I think everyone in the audience is probably agreeing. We don't need to preach to the choir on how fucking terrible.
Today on FSM, they talked about Kamala Harris being terrible. In other news, right? Like it's not news.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But the fact that Georgia flipped, I actually called that one. So I'm really proud. I didn't make a map of the country like before the election, but if I had, there were very few states that I got wrong. very, very few. And I'm pretty proud of that fact because I called Georgia. I was looking at the demographics and I was looking at like the precincts and everything. And I was actually still with Livy and Dimitri. By then we were in Colorado, and they were like, no, we've lived there for blah, blah, blah. And, they were up in like Ranger, like an hour and a half outside of the city and bumfuck nowhere. So of course everyone around them was
not far
MAGA.
from me.
No offense. I grew up in bumfuck nowhere.
You should see all the damn Trump flags out here, man. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, like, I'm from New York. I grew up around that, and New York is solid blue. Like, I understand what a city overtaking a state looks like politically. And I watched it happen in Georgia this year, and I saw it coming because and the only one that I actually like really thought was possible that didn't happen was Texas, because I thought Texas was going blue too. After watching Cruz almost lose in 2018, I thought, holy shit, if they can almost vote in some dipshit like Beto O'Rourke, like them voting for Biden over Trump is not that crazy of a thought. But yeah, how do you think that Georgia can even back out, so it's not basically like three major cities controlling a state's politics?
It's got to be decentralization, and that's kind of my plan. If we're fortunate enough, like right now, the Democrats got Stacey Abrams, probably, who's going to be their nominee down here in Georgia for governor, right? Like they just don't have the fan power behind anybody else, and she's a Build-A-Burger, right? Like that's the thing is like when you can say, hey, listen, man, she's a Build-A-Burger op. She's obviously not on the top tier making the decisions. She's an interest because of her political influence here in the South. We've got Vernon Jones, who's one of the most crooked, lying Democrat or former Democrats turned Republican that's being championed by Trump right now down here. He's already blocked me on social media for asking him if he missed some votes, which he could have just told the truth about. Like he already had, but instead he decided to lie, and I caught him on it, got the screenshots and all. And then you got Brian Kemp, the current governor who locked us down. Like this is not a good election cycle for Republicans. And man, I'll tell you what, like it's a moment where we have enough, name recognition down here to at least start the blaze. And if we can do that, man, to start to look at this in a different way, Democrat, Republican, well, I think Georgia's always been Democrat. I think what happened, after the 1960s and was that the Republicans who were in control saw the writing on the wall, or I should say the Democrats who were in control saw the writing on the wall that they weren't part of the desegregation movement and everything, and so they became quote unquote Republicans. Really, they were just blue dog Democrats. And it's been that group of people who stayed in charge till now. It's about to change big time because those people have been found out. They've been exposed by the Herculean efforts of the Liberty Movement, and the guys down here pushing for everything from ballot access to cannabis, you name it. And it's time. Right now, 2022 is the warm up round for 2024, and I'll tell you what, man, it's just the message of liberty is what's going to change it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm really excited about the amount of infrastructure and the platform that people like you and Chase and like Larry up in New York and like Nick Wildstar in California, and we've got a bunch of other people who are kind of rising up and will probably be running again next year. That just leads into some really fucking strong endorsements and surrogates for whoever we run as president. Like the idea of having you and Chase, even if you both lose, which I think that there's like some real possibilities down there that's I think 22 is going to shock some people in a few states. But even if you both lose, you guys are going to get like at least 1 million votes between the two of you easily. And that's 1 million people already ready and gung-ho to vote for whoever we run in 24. And not only that, but that's 1 million people who are already ready. And half of them are probably like, wait, how do I make 24 work? we're going to fire up so many volunteers in the next 3 years that the 24 is going to be a race like no one in the Liberty Movement's seen before. It's going to be.
I can tell you from the inundation in my email, man, like the people that are going like, how do I help you? It's never been like that. I've had volunteers before, and I've, had, some pretty active volunteers going out and recruiting. We're not even doing that. Like it was a one-man show for Senate here. And to be able to do that without spending a dime and have that kind of response where people want to get involved and actually work their ass off. Ooh, man, that's something the establishment has not calculated at all.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I'll ask that question here too. How can people get involved and help out and support what you guys are doing just in the LP down there and also for your race?
Yeah, man. LP Georgia is the Libertarian Party down here, and we've got the LP Mises Caucus. I would be amiss if I didn't talk about that. Both of those are great organizations that are doing huge things down here. For me, it is radicalpod.com. I've got all my links there. You can sign up, and someday I'll have a newsletter when I've got a little bit more time and all that fun stuff. But yeah, if you want to help me out with Radical, it's radicalpod.com. It's Shane T. Hazel on pretty much everything else. And I'm pretty active on Twitter, apparently. So, got some tweets out there that that I like doing, actually.
Yeah, Twitter's gotten more fun. It's also awful.
Yeah, it's such a dichotomy, man.
It's so obnoxious. Well, Shane, thanks so much for coming on. This was awesome.
David, I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you for the platform, brother. And you'll have to come and do Radical now.
Oh, for sure. Guys, if you haven't already, go follow Shane. His thing's been scrolling across the bottom for a while. If you live in Georgia, figure out how you can help. Get involved with the Mises Caucus or the Pragmatist Caucus, because they're both doing some fun things down there and running some really awesome candidates. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. The button's over that way. And like this, share it with all your friends. Tell everyone that you know that lives in Georgia about this episode so that they can help out. And we will catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.